you remember the Animorphs?
Oh yeah, those great book
For those who don't know, the Animorphs was a book series from let's call it the 90s, where children were given these powers by aliens to turn into animals, like any animal really, and it ended up being like even animals from outer space and stuff later on. But they were all like 12, 13, 14, that age group, but they're constantly being mutilated and ripped apart, and just horrible things often happen to them while they're in the form or they're for the guise of an animal.
I've never read it.
I love this. Thank you for this. Look at the starfish bitch. Let me tell you. So when she was in the form of a starfish, she got cut in half on a mission they were doing. And the way starfish work, each half created a new starfish with a different half of her personality. It was a whole problem. Yeah, there's some of the darkest childhood like literature you can imagine. Harry Potter's a little rough, like kids get mutilated and die, but every book something awful happens to these people, real psychological terror. And the artwork, at some point the guy's just having a laugh.
That's what kind of I remember seeing these books at like Barnes and Noble as a kid, or in the library in like grade school, but I never read them. What kind of problems were they seeking to solve as a starfish?
Alien invasions. Like there's a whole race of aliens invading and trying to take over and like create mass genocide and stuff. And they have similar powers, if I remember correctly. But the thing is, they're from some scary, they've been to alien worlds all around. So they've seen scary fucking animals. So our kids are like, we got to go to the zoo, because I think they have to touch or at least see an animal to have it in their data bank or whatever. So they go to the zoo and there's a bear. Now I've got that. There's a tiger.
Oh, they can turn into
animals.
So she's not just a starfish.
No, there's just a scene in that book where she becomes one for her like underwater mission.
Yeah.
So they would generally become whatever animal was best for what they were doing. Maybe a fly on the wall would be convenient, or a fish in the ocean, or a bear to fight off an alien who's turned into a Tyrannosaurus, which I think happened. There were dinosaurs at one point.
Did you like this book series as a kid?
I read two of them.
Can't wait to see how they get out of it.
I only read two of them, and it just wasn't doing it for me. Something about I remember specifically reading them and not really being about it, and thinking Harry Potter was way cooler than the Animorphs. But then I saw that Reddit thread and read through, and what they do, they go book by book, the awful things that happened. Here's what happened to a 13-year-old in episode 4. The rapening. It's like, oh my god. Yeah,
it was real.
Because they'll be in, sometimes they'll get stuck as the animal, and now they can't. Now this one kid's just a hawk forever, and they gotta be like, sorry, Jim. And Jim wants to eat mice because he's a hawk, but that's like traumatizing to him to kill and eat a mouse with his face, and it's a whole thing. There's lots of psychological terror that happens. One guy he's a fly, he gets swatted. Now he's all mangled and like eyeballs oozing out of his body, and his whole thorax is ruptured, but he's still alive.
But he can turn back into a human.
Well, not right then, or everybody would notice, right? He's got to lay there in agony for a while.
If you die as an animal, do you die for real? Is it like a dream?
So, yeah. Like several of the children die.
This is pretty
lots. Many of the children die.
I didn't know.
Here are some of the things that you might not remember as a kid. A child repeatedly experiences his intestines hanging out of his body while in various animal forms. The child in the form of a fly experiences getting splattered and smeared against a ceiling until his friends, who are also flies at the time, can peel his body off and take him somewhere where he can transform back into a whole human before his insect mind fades. The child is shrunken and experiences having her eyeballs digested out of her head inside her friend's stomach while she's still in the form of a tiny elephant.
Yep,
this is pretty cool.
She was blinded permanently by that.
Really?
I think so, yeah. I'm almost positive.
Dude, this is a fucked up book. I wouldn't have guessed this based on the cover. I thought it was like kids hanging out, turning into animals, maybe solving a minor mystery, like a boxcar
big mystery.
The heroes are forced to permanently imprison another child in the body of a rat because he knows too much. They abandon him on a tiny island with other rats and garbage.
In the ocean.
You know too much.
A tiny island in the ocean. Like no hope of ever getting away.
Is there a made-for-TV movie?
An ordinary ant gets transformed into a human child. It has no idea what's happening and is so overwhelmed by its huge new brain and sensory input that all it can do is scream until it dies. Nice. Yeah, they should make a fuck Harry Potter. This should be a movie. I want 8 movies of that.
Yeah, I want the Animorphs. I want it.
There's more than 8 books. There's many books.
Yeah, it's like Boxcar Kids.
I'm sure they go to space, and I'm sure that they either go back in time to get dinosaurs or to a dinosaur planet.
Did you ever read mystery books like in your school library?
Boxcar Children. Love
Boxcar Kids. The
Lots of
Boxcar Children. Do you remember I remember reading like a third of one of those books, and I read like a number of them, but like getting through it and being like, oh, I know the ending, and like as though that was hard. Like being 7 years old and reading it to where like every time the first guy who shows up and is mean, he's just a guy who has a stone heart, and he's his
red herring.
died. Yeah, he always a red herring. The first person who shows up and is like really nice and offers the kids a meal, that's who did it. Every book. It'll be like, we have to start hop off this boxcar and then go to the local school. Oh no, Mr. John C. Rapist has stopped us. And he's like,
for some reason, fictional food is always more desirable than any food you'd ever see at a
Turkish
bakery
delight.
Or a deli. A good example. And I remember this excerpt from one of the Boxcar Children books where they're talking about, because they lived in a boxcar, which in case you don't know is a car off of a train that's just a big box for storage, usually of live animals and such.
I think that sounded cool to live.
And it's been derailed and it's off in the woods and they're living in the motherfucking thing, like half a dozen kids. And to keep their milk cool, because they had groceries to some extent, they had like bread and milk, they would put it in the creek. And as a kid, I remember thinking, because they described it as being very cool, and I remember thinking, like, man, I wish I had milk that was kept cool by a creek. Meanwhile, I have a refrigerator keeping it at exactly 41.8 degrees because that's the perfect temperature for milk.
So you're like, man, I wish I had to go down to the creek and pull a jug out of the stream to drink.
Yeah. No, I liked those. I read a ton as a kid, and I liked the mystery stuff. I liked when there was a band of kids who were like brothers and sisters, because I didn't really have any brothers or sisters. I had the one, but we didn't get along. We didn't have any fun together. Want to do our own thing. So, no, I like that.